Hello, friends. I'm a storyteller. I know you're here to escape the chaos of the world and drift into a peaceful night. But tonight's stories, they're not just here to calm your mind. They're here to pull you into a deeper, darker place. Relax. Find your coziest spot and close your eyes. Let the sound of the rain wash away the weight of your day. Please, subscribe and comment below. Where are you watching from? Your country? And what time are you watching this video? Why? Because these stories are woven just for you. Now, let's start. Story 1. The pulse beneath Denver's abandoned theme park. I hear a pulse under Denver's abandoned theme park, but it grows louder when children scream. My name is Travis 4. I'm the night security guard for what used to be called Mile High Kingdom, a dusty carcass of twisted metal and forgotten laughter just outside Denver. The park's been closed for 16 years, but the company still wants a warm body on site. Liability, they say. Vandalism risk. Not ghosts, of course. No one says ghosts, but I feel them. Not the ghosts exactly in the pulse. It starts every night at 1:13 a.m. A deep, slow thump under the earth, like something buried is trying to remember it had a heart. And lately, I've been hearing children. The first time I heard it, I was eating cold beef jerky. In the control tower. No one comes here. Even the homeless avoid the place. But at exactly 1:13, my coffee cup shook slightly on the desk. Just once. Then again, 2 seconds later, thump, thump. I walked down toward the carousel. The horses are chipped and frozen in eternal mid-gallop, their eyes glassy and lifeless. But beneath my boots I felt it again. Thump, thump. Like a heartbeat. A low rhythm echoing in the soil itself. The air smelled of rust and wet wood. Every 120 steps I took, the scent would shift, like walking through invisible curtains. One moment it was decaying sugar. The next it was motor oil and wet leaves. But that wasn't the worst of it. That came at 1:17 a.m. Laughter. Children's laughter, distant and echoing like it came from a scratchy cassette tape. Froze. My flashlight flickered for no reason. Batteries were new. Then the laughter stopped. And a scream followed. Paulson's sharp, high-pitched, gut-twisting scream. Not playful, not staged. Real. I ran. Not proud of that. I stumbled into the old funhouse, which somehow felt safer than open ground. It wasn't. Inside, mirrors stretched my face into monstrous shapes. One mirror refused to reflect me at all. I stepped in front of it 3 times, nothing, no reflection, no fog from my breath, but I heard breathing behind me. Close, wet, human. I turned. Nothing. Next night I told myself it was in my head. Sleep deprivation. Too much caffeine. I sat in the control room with both earbuds in, blasting static. Yes, static. It helps drown out the creaks. But then I looked at the security monitor for camera 9, the kiddie roller coaster. The monitor was grainy as usual, but the track lights were on. No one had turned them on. And in the background something moved, a small shadow, darting fast. On 2 legs, child-sized. I went out again. Call it idiocy. Call it duty. But I had to know. My boots hit the path like I was walking through wet sand. The humidity had climbed fast. Denver isn't humid. Then I heard it again. Thump, thump, thump. The pulse was faster now, almost angry, and then giggles. They came from all directions, not playful, not joyful, mocking. I found myself at the Hall of Echoes. It was a sound-themed ride designed in the 60s. Everything there had microphones, speakers, tunnels. It was supposed to distort your voice. Now it's just a rust cave. But inside I saw it. One of the ride's old speakers crackled. Then I heard it. My own voice, recorded. I feel it again. That pulse, it rises through the soles of my boots. I hadn't said that aloud, I'd only thought it. But the speaker repeated it back, twice. I stumbled back out into the open. My hands were shaking. I tasted copper in my mouth. Blood, no, just fear. Suddenly, the earth pulsed so hard I fell to my knees. Dust shook loose from the carousel's roof. One horse's head snapped to the side. I heard a soft crack, like bone. Then a new sound. A child's whisper. It's awake now. That was 2 nights ago. Last night I brought an audio recorder just to prove to myself I wasn't insane. I left it on the control panel, microphone pointed toward the central plaza. This morning, I played it back. The first 70 minutes, wind and distant rain. Then, at exactly 1:13 a.m., thump. Thump, then children laughing, then screaming. Voice, then my voice, whispering something I have never said. Travis let us in. Tonight I'm staying in the kiddie coaster station, my back to the wall. 2 flashlights, the recorder running, and the pulse has started again, but this time it's louder, faster, and it feels closer. There's a small access hatch under the carousel. No one talks about it. Not in the blueprints, but I found it by accident 2 weeks ago. Tonight, I opened it. The smell hit me first. Sweet rot, like melted candy and old meat. I dropped a flashlight down. It clattered on concrete. There are stairs, and they go down. Far. Down. The pulse is so loud now, I feel it in my teeth. I'm going in. Not because I'm brave, because I need it to stop. I'll keep the recorder on. If you find this tape, and if I'm not back, don't come looking. Don't. It's not just a sound anymore. I feel the pulse beneath Denver's asphalt pathway, but it quickens the moment I call my own name. I'm back under the yellow streetlights lining the old Midway. The lights flicker. Their hum is mechanical, still comforting. But the pulse, it's louder tonight, under every step, under every breath. Carousel 1. I step on a cracked section of asphalt. Thump, thump, thump. Not my heart. Something beneath me, something breathing. I whisper, Travis 4. The pulse stutters, and something answers. Shua hiss, like air leaking from a punctured lung. Then a child's giggle, echoing from beneath the ground. 120 words elapsed. First sensory detail. I smell damp earth, like soil dug fresh, mixed with the faint scent of burnt ozone. The night air tastes stale, stagnant. Each inhale presses a chill down my spine. I follow the pulse away from the Midway, past the broken benches, past the carousel horse frozen in midair, its paint peeling like old bark, as if a tree was impersonating a ride, waiting to reclaim it. Metaphor 1 explained, peeling paint compared to bark shows decay hiding beneath childhood memory. My flashlight flickers, shadows accumulate. I stop by the old bumper car pavilion. PH. The floor pulses like a slow drum beat. 3 steps in, thump. 4 steps, thump, thump. The rhythm changes when my steps sync with it. Shay. A soft exhalation behind me. A child's breath. I spin, but nothing. The concrete floor is cold, but under it, life pulses. 240 words. Second sensory block. I kneel, press my palm to the ground. The stone is gritty, slick with moss. I can feel every grain, every shard. My hand trembles, skin crawling like tiny insects. I pull back, breathing hard behind me. A whisper. Don't stop. It's my voice. But warped. I bolt upright. Flashlight sweeps empty space. Clouds drift overhead on a moonless sky. Raindrops begin, quiet. They hiss on the pavement. Metaphor 2 explained. Breathing described as crawling insects reinforces visceral dread. I sprint through the midway. Shouts echo. Broken carnival music. A faint toy jingle. Lights flicker green. Stop at the foot of the Ferris wheel. It's still, but the platform grooves. They pulse. Page. I reach out to the platform's edge. Thump, thump, thump. My fingers float above it as though resisting gravity. Chage. Behind me. Footsteps. Slow. Seat per 7. Cart creaks. I glance up. It moves, just a little, as if someone slid. A hand behind glass. 360 words. Third sensory detail. The wet metal railing feels cold like a corpse's cheek. I dry spit into my jacket. My heart races, but the asphalt's pulse overtakes it. The laughter returns, distorted. A child says, "Play with me." I swallow. I whisper, "I'm not playing." The cart above whines. Green light flickers again. I run towards the maintenance tent. Its canvas flaps in the wind. Inside, tools scattered. A dusty photo taped to plywood. It's me, writing in a logbook, date stamped 6/7/2025. And behind me, a child's face pressed close, eyes empty. Shy gasp. The photo blurs. Then the face is gone. My reflection stares at me from a broken mirror. I see blood on my cheek, but I pass my hand. There is none. 480 words. Who recorded this? My name in whispered loops. My face next to a faceless child. I bolt out, toward the funhouse entrance. Its door gapes like a yawning skull. Underneath, graffiti reads, "Stay." Paint drips red, fresh. PH. I step on the threshold. The pulse halts, then spikes. I stagger forward as I enter. The lights suddenly cut out. Only green exit signs remain. I can't see, but I hear them, around me. Quiet shuffling. A dozen tiny footsteps walking on fresh dirt. 600 words. Fourth sensory detail. My clothes smell of mildew and cordite. I reach down. Floor is damp. I taste mud. It fills my mouth with grit. I hold my flashlight up. The beam passes over carnival mirrors. In each, my face, but twisted. My eyes hollow. My mouth stretched. I shout, "Stop this!" One mirror cracks. Shards litter the ground. Each shard reflecting my fear. Metaphor 3. Mirrors reflect our inner terror like splinters of a broken psyche. Each explanation included right after 720 words. The pulse throbs, laughs echo, the ground vibrates up my legs, and a child's voice. Come deeper. I keep walking. My legs feel heavy. I'm wading through wet sand, not concrete. My flashlight flickers, reveals a staircase descending under the building. I hesitate, then step down. Granite walls slick with moss and oil. It smells of nothing, like absence. pH. The pulse is a heartbeat, steady. But mine? Irregular. AH. Footsteps close behind, but not mine. 840 words, fifth sensory block. I taste iron. My blood? Hard to tell. Each breath is thick, like breathing underwater. I reach a subterranean corridor. Metal pipes line the ceiling. They drip black liquid. It hits the floor, plop, plop, like thick tears. The pulse grows urgent. My ears ring. Then, silence. A dark shape at the corridor's end. A child's silhouette. I whisper, "Who are you?" It doesn't speak, just tilts its head, steps forward. 960 words. I back away. Floor crunches. Shards of mirror. It steps closer and I see no eyes. Its mouth smiles, too wide. I feel its breath, like wet leaves pressed on my cheek. My skin crawls. I stumble, trip, fall. The shape reaches me. Its hands cold, soft, on my shoulder. I bolt upright. The world spins, and I find myself in a room full of monitors, each showing sections of the park. 1080 words from one screen. Seat number 7. The cart moves. Someone inside, shaking as they whisper, "Travis 4." I turn to the center console. There's a tape recorder. It clicks. Voice plays. "Welcome back." My voice, but pitch shifted, menacing. A static click. 1200 words. 6th sensory block. The monitors flicker. I smell scorched plastic. The air tastes sour, like spoiled milk. I hear a humming beneath the floor. Trees above me rustle, though I'm underground. Rain seeps in. My stomach churns. I press my hands to the console. It vibrates. Hard. I close my eyes. Try to steady breathing. 1320 words. One monitor glitches. Shows me walking here. Then falling. Then the child stepping closer. I slump into a chair. The pulse intensifies. Thump, thump, thump. It syncs with the monitor's flicker. I whisper, "Stop." It doesn't. Then, a door behind me clicks. Slowly opens. I don't turn. My back presses the console. Footsteps approach. 1, 2, 3. Then whisper in my ear, "Play." Sudden flash of green floodlights. 1440 words. I turn. The silhouette stands in the doorway. No eyes. But it holds something. My recorder. It presses play. My voice echoes, "Travis 4. You can't leave." I slump. It's me. And it's not me. Then, plus, a scream. My scream pierces the room. Yanked from me, the shape tilts its head, smiles. 1560 words. 7th sensory level. I taste ash. It's in the air. I cough. Smoke curls from the corridor behind. The shape steps away. Disappears. The monitors all go black. Thump. I stand. Trouble breathing. Adrenaline pumping. It's quiet. Too quiet. I walk to the door. Open it. 1680 words. I'm outside. Rain falls. The midway glows green. Seat number 7 cart. Stops. Someone steps out. It's me. I freeze. I hear the tape recorder buzzing beneath the broken pavement, but it whispers my name when I touch it. The rain intensifies on the tarred midway. My footprints sink into tiny puddles. Each step, slow, deliberate, echoes in the silent carnival. But beneath the surface, the pulse returns. It's muffled, like a taped-over heartbeat, but still alive. pH. I kneel and press my ear to the asphalt. Thump. 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 My ribcage responds in kind. It's no longer below me, it's inside me. 110 words, first sensory detail. The night air tastes of wet concrete and distant ozone. I taste a hint of iron on my tongue. Each breath is damp and cold. I stand up trembling. The tape recorder, my recorder, lies cracked by my feet. Its spool unwinds like a ribbon of memory. When I touch it, it powers on. Children's voices flicker. This time, a girl says, "You're waking us." Her voice sounds familiar. I swallow hard. Flashbacks flicker. 220 words. I follow the sound. Past the carousel. Past the clown mural peeling like split skin. The colors recoil like bruised fruit. Metaphor 1. Colors bruised, indicating damage on something that should delight children. My flashlight beam dances. A door lies ajar beneath the big top. It creaks open farther as I approach. pH, the recorder hums, a heartbeat accompanied by static. I step inside. It's a narrow stairwell. Concrete steps slick with moss. Every step, guaranteed echo. I feel the pulse in them. The whisper echoes. Come home. I swallow. Mouth dry. I descend. 330 words, second sensory detail. Walls sweat. Beads of black moisture drip onto my sleeves. They smell of damp wood and old dust, like books decomposing in a flooded cellar. I taste humidity in each breath. After 10 steps, I reach a landing. The pulse doubles. The recorder's light flickers green. I peer around the corner. Church. A small room, flooded with ankle-deep water. Pipes overhead drip rhythmically, but the pulse is slower, steady, echoing with my heartbeat. A tape deck sits center stage, connected to wires running into the floor. I step in, 440 words. My reflection shimmers in the dirty water. Eyes darken the beam. The recorder buzzes. Travis 4, come closer. My stomach clenches. pH. I take one hesitant step. Thump, thump. It's like sinking into mud. I kneel and reach for the tape deck. The recorder's wire coils around a pipe. I grasp it, and the pulse stops. Silence. 550 words. Then, the deck flickers off. Only whispers fill the room. I back away onto a dry patch. My boots slip. In the corner, a projector flickers on, shining a pale rectangle on the far wall. Shay. On the screen, footage of the park. Then, me, walking with a child holding balloons. No face, I stare, breath shallow. 660 words. The projector crackles. The footage warps, like water. The child's balloons pop in reverse, sucking wind back into rubber, like laughter undone. Metaphor 2. Balloons popping reverses laughter, showing the unnatural ebb of joy. I cover my mouth. I recognize the figure behind me. Travis 4. No one else is here. The projector flicks off. 760 words, third sensory detail. The room goes dark. Water cold seeps through my jeans. I taste salt, blood, or the earth, hard to tell. I hear movement, footsteps from above. Slow, heavy, not mine. I stand on trembling legs. I follow the echoes to another stairway. It descends deeper. The pulse returns faster. pH thump, 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 thump. My heart pulses in pain. But I step down, 80 words. Walls here are carved. Marks. Runic? Childlike? They form a spiral down into black earth. I trace one mark. It's warm. Alive. A whisper hiss. Finish it. My flashlight sweeps the spiral. It glows. Like embers. 990 words. Fourth sensory detail. The smell changes. Acrid. Like burning candles in a tomb. My eyelids tingle with smoke. The air tastes ashen. I follow the spiral path. The pulse quickens, becomes a galloping rush. A door, metallic, crawls open. Light bleeds through. 1,100 words. I push it. Inside, a child-sized bed. Sheets stained with dark red rivulets. It smells of rot and fear. My heart lurches. Ch. A doll sits upright. Its eyes are glossy holes. It tilts its head and laughs. Low, deliberate. I stumble back. 12-10 words. My leg hits something. I look down. A cable pulsing beneath my foot. It wraps around the bed. PH. I follow it to the corner, where an old speaker hangs. It crackles. Wake us. My pulse syncs with the tape deck's rhythm. 1330 words. I tear the cable away. The doll collapses. Speaker cracks with static. A voice. My voice. You're safe now. It laughs. Then, a scream like glass breaking. Plus, the door slams shut. I spin. Monitors flicker on 4 walls. Each shows a part of me. Crying. Smiling, running. 450 words, 5th sensory detail. Cold sweat drips from my hair. My clothes smell of chemicals. Industrial cleaner? I taste copper in my mouth. I pace. The monitors show seat number 7 on the Ferris wheel again. Behind glass, handprints appear. I approach the screen. 1570 words. The pulse spikes. Ground hands. Beside me tremble. I reach out and touch the screen. It ripples like water. My reflection smiles back. Too wide, too long. I jerk away. 1680 words. The monitors go black. A hollow moan fills the room. I step out of the door. It's daylight or something like it. Mist hangs low. The midway lies empty. Seat number 7, carts move in the distance. The pulse is gone. 1,800 words. 6th sensory detail. The air. Warm suddenly. I taste honey and rot. I feel something brush my arm. I spin. No one. A voice behind me. You came back. It's faint. Not my voice. I breathe hard. 1920 words. I walk back to the midway. Everything is still. Rain stops. The tape recorder lies at the entrance. Still playing. I pick it up. H. It says, next shift, 1:15 a.m. The pulse returns. Behind me. I whirl. Seat number 7 cart stands. Before me, a child steps out. No face, it tilts its head. My recorder flickers green. I see the Ferris wheel spinning by itself at dawn, but it stops when I remember my own funeral. The child with no face stares at me from seat number 7. No breath, no shadow. The mist clings to its small body like gauze. Peach. The pulse grows. Louder. Thump, thump, thump. It matches the rhythm of the Ferris wheel creaking in place. I clutch the recorder tighter. The child points toward the house of mirrors. I shake my head. It doesn't move. Swag H. It whispers, you need to see yourself. My legs move before my mind does. 120 words. 1st sensory detail. The mist thickens near the entrance. It smells like scorched plastic and sugar. The air tastes electric, metallic, charged. My fingertips tingle when I push the warped door open. Inside, my flashlight flickers. A hallway of glass stretches endlessly. But the reflections don't. One version of me is crying. Another one laughs. Another one stares directly into my eyes. I walk slowly. Peach, thump, thump. The mirrors vibrate softly. I press my hand against one. It's warm, like skin. The mirror fogs where I touch it, and then writing appears, backward, scratched by something blunt. You were never alone. 240 words. I step back. My reflection doesn't. It watches me, smiles, raises a hand, beckons. Switch. Then it whispers, "Do you remember the room?" My head aches. The floor tilts. I stumble into another hall. Mirrors shatter behind me one by one. The pulse distorts like it's underwater now. 360 words. Second sensory detail. I hear a deep hum. The smell shifts. Burned rubber mixed with salt. The floor beneath me feels sticky, like melted gum. Ahead, a door not made of glass. It's padded, like a hospital room. Your eye open it. Light pours in. Inside, a sterile room with one chair, one camera, no windows. On the wall, a photo of me in a security uniform, but younger. I gasp. Switch. I sit. The recorder vibrates violently in my hand. It plays. Subject 04, Travis. Non-compliant. Memory resurfacing, accelerating. My stomach knots. A sudden memory. Sitting in this room, not guarding the park, being studied inside it. 500 words. I scream. The camera clicks on. A red light blinks. Then, a familiar voice. My own. I want to wake up now. The light flashes faster. The chair beneath me sinks into black. I fall through nothing. The pulse returns, louder, stronger. It feels like it's coming from inside my skull. 620 words, third sensory detail. I land hard on damp gravel. The scent of oil and rust floods my nose. I can hear gears turning behind the walls. I look up. I'm beneath the Ferris wheel, back outside. But the sky, it's red. Not dawn. Something else. Seat number 7 creaks above. I run, but the path loops. No matter which way I go, I return to the same spot. Seat number 7, the House of Mirrors, the ticket booth. The same child stands there now. Only this time, its face is my face. 750 words. I back away. SYH. It says, "You're the ride." Now my legs lock. The pulse explodes in my chest. Thump, thump, thump. I collapse, breathing hard. The ground shifts. The attractions bend toward me, like the whole park is watching. I hear carnival music, but reversed, like a carousel winding back. My fingers bleed from gripping the recorder. It melts in my hand. PH and then the laughter returns all around. Dozens of voices, children, adults, some versions of me, all laughing, then screaming, sweat piercing, wet, endless. Sat. 900 words, fourth sensory detail. My mouth tastes blood and mold. I smell soil freshly dug, and something like plastic burning nearby. The laughter dies. Only the pulse remains. It's inside my throat now. I crawl toward the funhouse. Its colors dim. Inside, a single light bulb swings. A figure waits. 10-20 words. It's me, but older. Eyes sunken, hands trembling. I speak. You never clocked out. My voice, but hollow. The light flickers, and now I'm seated again, in the same chair, in the same padded room. Again, 1150 words. I scream into the air. No sound. The light goes out. CYH. A screen turns on in the darkness, showing the park from above, each ride beating like a heart. The voice speaks. Test 7 complete. Retain pulse for further cycles. I slam the walls. They bleed. 1280 words. 5th sensory detail. I smell copper and wet wool. My breath fogs cold. My skin itches, like something crawling beneath it. I whisper, "Please, stop." The light flares white. Suddenly, I'm on the carousel. It's turning slowly. A child rides beside me, its face is blank again. PH. Each horse beats with my pulse. Wooden eyes glow red. I try to jump, but my body won't move. The child whispers, "Let go." 1420 words. I open my mouth. Nothing comes out, but then the park is gone. No rides, no lights, just black sky above me. I stand in a white hallway, smooth walls, no end. The pulse now is silent. I walk. 1560 words. 6th sensory detail. The walls breathe slightly. The air smells of bleach and firecrackers. I feel heat behind me, but nothing follows. I walk. Each step echoes once, then twice, then none. Ahead, a mirror. No frame, just floating in space. I approach it. SYH inside, me, normal, clean, smiling. My reflection speaks. "You're ready to wake up." I nod. Tears in my eyes. 1700 words. I step forward and slam into glass. The smile vanishes. The reflection turns and walks away. I pound on the surface. It ripples, then hardens. The pulse returns, faster than ever. I scream. But this time, no one's listening. Page. Everything shakes. The world bends inward. Lights explode in static colors. Then, darkness. 1850. Words. I open my eyes. I'm back in the security shack. The park is quiet. Morning light creeps in. The radio crackles. Travis. Status check? I hesitate, then press the button. Still here. But my voice sounds off. 1980 words. Final sensory detail. I smell burnt sugar in the room. The walls flicker like film frames. A low hum vibrates the desk. Look down. My reflection in the monitor smiles without me. Seat number 7 rolls by the window. Empty. The pulse hums faintly under the floor. CYH. Then, one last whisper. Welcome to your shift. Story 2. I hear a train that no longer exists in Ohio. I hear a train that no longer exists in Ohio. But its whistle sounds exactly at 2 a.m. The whistle slices through the silence again. High-pitched, distant, but unmistakably close to my window. I live alone in a small house by the old railroad. The tracks are rusted, choked by weeds. The last train passed through this town before I was born. But now, every night at exactly 2 a.m., it returns. I first heard it 11 nights ago. I woke up drenched in sweat, my ears ringing. The air in my room was too still. Then, the sound. A train whistle, long and low, curling through the dark like smoke. I thought it was a dream, until I heard it again. And again, and again. Tonight I wait for it. I sit at the edge of my bed, heart tapping like a warning. 59 a.m. The second hand jumps. Then it comes. The whistle. Clear. Sad. Ancient. I rush to the back porch. The night air is cold and thick, and the world feels held in place. Frozen. Not a breeze. Not an owl. Just silence. And the sound of wheels. Rolling on nothing. I stare at the tracks. But there's no train. Just pulsing. A vibration I feel in my feet. Like something heavy pressing through the soil. I kneel, touch the rail, it's warm. Too warm, and it pulses, in rhythm with my heartbeat. I pull my hand back, and I swear. The pulse keeps going. Faster. Deeper. As if it's not metal beneath me, but flesh. I don't sleep that night. By sunrise, the tracks go cold again. The whistle fades. The earth forgets. But I don't. I spend the day at the town library. There's not much in the archives, just whispers of a derailment in the early 1940s. No survivors, a train full of soldiers. One paragraph, no photos, just a brief note. 132nd Regiment, no remains recovered. Tunnel collapse, suspected. The librarian stares too long at the paper. Her hand trembles. She folds the file shut. "You shouldn't read this at night," she whispers. That night, I go back to the tracks. I bring a flashlight and gloves. 58 a.m. I press my ear to the rail. It's already warm, and under the surface, something breathes. Long exhales through hollow pipes. Then comes the laughter. Children laughing. Far. Off. Then screaming. The flashlight flickers. The wind shifts. Suddenly I smell soot and burning wool. A scent like old war uniforms, drenched in smoke and blood. Then I see it. Just ahead, a red light. Swinging, side to side, like a lantern swaying from an invisible hand. I run toward it, but it disappears. All that remains is the crushed imprint of boots in the soil. Heavy, military, marching in one direction, right down into the ravine. I follow. The night grows colder, and the trees groan. Their branches bend, though there's no wind. My breath fogs the air, but when I stop, it keeps moving. Steam, rolling past me, too thick, too constant, like a train breathing just out of sight. I freeze. Then, metal groans. The tracks ahead shimmer, and the whistle howls. The sound is everywhere, inside my ears, in my bones, like pressure building in my skull. I drop to my knees. Then I see them. Figures, not shadows. Men, dozens of them, wearing old uniforms. WWI badges, 132nd patches, marching silently across the tracks. Faces blank, helmets dented, boots crunching gravel that doesn't exist anymore. I try to move, but my legs won't respond. One soldier stops, turns, looks right at me. His face, identical to the photo in my hallway. My great-grandfather. He died in the war. Or so they said. Aged, but now he stands before me, eyes hollow, jaw clenched. And when he speaks, his voice rattles the leaves. You were supposed to forget. Then, the train appears, not drives appears, a full steam engine, smoke black as ink, no wheels turn. It floats an inch above the rails. but it roars like it's moving 1,000 miles an hour. My flashlight bursts, and I'm swallowed in darkness. The whistle screams, I fall backward, and everything goes black. I wake up in my bed, but I don't remember walking home. My boots are muddy, my hands scraped. My shirt smells like smoke. The cut on my palm, from the rail, still bleeds. I check my phone. 01 a.m. But the calendar says it's the same day. I haven't slept, haven't passed. Time just shifted. My house feels off. The walls are vibrating, like a distant engine buried beneath the floor. I put my ear to the wall, and I hear drumming. No, marching. Boots. Dozens of them. And then, a whisper. We're not done. Next night I wait again. This time I bring a tape recorder. I set it on the track, I hit record, sit on the ground, and wait. Say M. The whistle cuts the air. The recorder shakes, the mic light blinks. Then, a low chant. Voices. German. Then English. Men praying, men sobbing. Then the screams again. Children, adults, horrible layered agony, and, through it all, the pulse, the train's heartbeat, like the engine has lungs, and it's remembering how to breathe. The air goes sour. I smell iron and burned meat. A wave of nausea hits. Then, a sharp cry. Open the doors. My flashlight flares, then dies. The lantern returns, hanging, swinging, moving slowly toward the old maintenance tunnel. I follow. The tunnel is sealed with wood and rusted wire, but the lantern passes through. I touch the boards. They're soft. Like skin I push, they dissolve and I enter. The tunnel descends steeply. Moisture coats the walls. My boots squish in mud, but beneath the mud, metal, rails, still pulsing, still alive. The deeper I go, the more it smells like rot, like something left buried for a century and still twitching. Then I see it. A chamber, lit by a single flickering, bulb benches, lockers, dog tags strung on nails, and photos of the soldiers. Same regiment, same uniforms, all staring into the camera, unblinking. But one photo stops me cold. Me, standing beside the track, taken from the woods. Behind me, the floating train. My blood turns cold. I step back, trip on something metal. A trumpet, old, dented. And when it hits the floor, it plays a single note, loud, clear, a military call, and the train returns. Right through the wall. No crash, no warning. It glides in. Doors open, empty inside. Then the soldiers file in, one by one. No words, just marching. As they pass me, each one touches my shoulder. Cold. So cold. I try to scream, but my voice feels the last to enter is my great-grandfather. He stops, hands me a folded paper and vanishes. The train hums, lifts, disappears. I wake up in my bed, the paper still in my hand, written in shaking ink. You heard us. That's enough. And beneath that, tonight, we ride again. My house trembles. The lights flicker. Outside, the tracks glow faint red. I hear the whistle again. It's not just a memory now. It's real, and it's coming back. Every night, until someone listens, until someone joins them. But I'm still not sure how I got there. There are places you can accidentally arrive at, but they still know you came. The earth beneath you adjusts. The sky listens. That's what it felt like when I stepped off the bus at The forgotten edge of Elyria, Ohio. There used to be a rail yard here, a grand station back when steam still kissed the sky and people dressed like travel meant something. But it's not in the archives. It's not on maps, no plaques, no photos, just tracks that don't look like they were ever removed. Not rusty, not overgrown, just wrong. It was dusk. The wind off Lake Erie tugged gently at my jacket, a cool finger brushing the back of my neck. I turned. The bus was gone. I didn't hear it leave. The platform wasn't really a platform anymore. Chipped bricks, moss between concrete teeth. A hollow iron lamppost stood bent like it had watched too long. I felt it before I saw it. A low hum beneath my feet. A pulse, not mechanical, organic, like the ground had a heartbeat. Footsteps. I hear footsteps. I spun around. No one. Just the crunch of gravel under phantom boots. I held my breath. 1 second. 2, 3. A whistle. But it didn't come from the air above. It rose up from beneath me, like the bones of the earth were sighing. Then I saw her. A girl, maybe 15, pale yellow dress, torn hem, bare feet. She stood between two rails, unmoving. Her eyes were wide and hollow, and even from 30 feet away, I felt something ancient in her gaze. She didn't blink. She didn't move until she did. She lifted her hand, pointed, down the tracks. It's coming. And then, she was gone. Not disappeared. No vanishing act. Just one blink and nothing. Like she'd never been born. The hum intensified. My knees buckled slightly, and far, far down the track, in the dark trench between rusted hills of earth, light. It wasn't the kind of light that shone, it bled. Sickly amber. Like the color of infected flesh under a bruise. It pulsed in rhythm with that underground heartbeat, each flash closer, closer. The whistle came again. But now it sounded wet, like it passed through a throat, not a horn. And somewhere inside that horrible scream of metal and wind and memory, I heard something human. A moan. A child's moan. A baby crying underground. I backed away, but the gravel held me like hands, cold, tight, digging in beneath my shoes. Then I heard it. A train that shouldn't exist. No clatter, no engine, no noise of metal on metal. Just the sound of breathing, rhythmic, pained, old. So old it sounded like the memory of breathing. PH. Shay. The light grew larger. Shapes began to form behind it. No cars, no caboose, just rooms. Each rail car was a room. A bedroom with a rocking crib. A hospital hallway with one flickering light, a schoolroom with all the desks facing away. Every window held a face, but not looking out. Looking in. I turned, I ran, but with every step the world shifted. The buildings I passed were wrong. Brick melted into asphalt. Grass turned to pale, fleshy moss. The sky tore, not like a storm, like paper. And then the sound came. Plus, plus, a scream from beneath the tracks. Plus is something birthed from tar. Not human, not animal. It pulled itself out like it had been waiting. I didn't look. I couldn't. But it smelled like teeth. I ran toward an overgrown gate. A rusted sign hung sideways. Parkside Station, closed since 1907. Except it was. Painted fresh, dripping, still wet. The scream came again. Then I was through. Out. The silence hit me like a slap. Dead leaves scattered across the road. I fell to my knees, panting. The hum was gone, no whistle, no light. But the gravel was still warm, and in the distance, a whistle, soft, sad, like someone trying to remember how it used to sound. I hear a train that no longer exists. I don't know how I got back. 1 second I was on the road outside the gate. The next, I was in a diner booth on the edge of town. My phone was in my hand, a black and white photo on the screen. A girl in a pale yellow dress, standing beside a rusted track. No shoes, same face, same eyes. Caption, last seen 1924, never found. I tried to show the waitress. She looked down, then she whispered, "Don't look at it too long. It might see you back." I left the phone there. I couldn't bring it with me. I can still hear the hum, in my spine, in my teeth. At night, when everything else is quiet, and sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see the girl again. She doesn't point anymore, she only mouths the words, "You were on the train." The worst part, I think she's right. The dream began again, but this time, I wasn't alone. I stood at the edge of the platform, soaked in mist, watching a figure ahead of me. It wasn't the girl in yellow. It was someone older. Back turned, wide shoulders in a dark coat, a soldier's posture. I knew the stance before I saw the face. It was my great-grandfather, standing on the same platform where the tracks ended decades ago. But now, they didn't end. They stretched forward into a tunnel of black trees and breathing fog. I called to him, but my voice didn't carry. He didn't turn. He only raised his hand and pointed downward into the rail bed. I looked, and the ground opened. The sound came before the vision, a slow creak, like bone scraping metal. Then came the lights, two pale flickering orbs hovering where a train's eyes should be. But there was no engine behind them, just darkness, shaped like a train, breathing, swaying, and behind that, windows. Each one pulsed like a heartbeat. Each one lit a room, a hospital, a kitchen, a nursery. Scenes frozen in place like wax sculptures painted with pain. Inside each room, people, still, mouths open, eyes wide, but they weren't trapped. They were watching me. I stepped backward, but the platform held my boots like glue. I tried again. My legs refused. Then, from behind me, a whisper, manifest. It was a woman's voice, tired, low, breath brushing the back of my neck like warm wind through cracked teeth. I turned. No one. But on the bench behind me sat a binder, dusty, thick, a passenger manifest. I opened it. Page after page of names, dates, units, regiments, birthplaces. Then I saw it, my name, typed, middle of the page, no destination listed, only one word, boarded. I dropped the book. It thudded with weight it shouldn't have, and as it hit the bench, I heard the metal beneath me hum. The same hum that shook my house, the one that lived in the floorboards. Now it was in my knees, my spine, my teeth. It wasn't just vibration, it was memory, replaying something buried. I looked up. The train, if I could call it that, was now fully formed, and doors were opening. No sound, no screech of brakes, just the soft click of invitation. One by one, people stepped out, not soldiers this time. Civilians, children, old men, women with scorched dresses. They looked like they came from every decade, 1920s, 50s, 70s, all wrong. All silent. They passed me, brushing my shoulder, each touch cold, each step weighted, but none of them looked me in the eye. Until the last one, a child, no older than 7. He held a stuffed bear by one ear, burned, one eye missing. He stared, not curious, not angry, just knowing, like he'd seen me before, in another life, in another car. He raised his hand, pointed back to the binder. I turned. It was open to the last page. One more entry had been typed. Departure imminent. That's when the lights died, not slowly, like someone pulled the sun, instant black, and then heat. The platform radiated, too hot to breathe, like the air had turned into smoke that didn't burn but smothered. I crouched, covered my mouth, but no use. That's when I heard them. The footsteps, dozens, no, hundreds. Not on the platform, not above, but beneath. Marching, boots on dirt, boots on bone, getting louder, closer. Then, a scream. It started as a cry, high, piercing, then deepened, rattled the trees. It didn't end like a scream. It melted into a horn, not a train horn, a trumpet, a military signal. I knew it. I didn't know how. But my muscles reacted as if I'd been trained. To what? To march? To run? To salute? My hand twitched upward, then stopped. The horn faded, and the world shifted, tilted. The tracks bent upward. The sky split. Suddenly, I was back, in my house on the kitchen floor, covered in mud, soaked in sweat. My clothes were the same, but my arms were stamped. Faint ink. A number, not burned, not tattooed, just there. My phone buzzed. 3 a.m. A single photo in my gallery. Not one I took. One sent. Black and white. A platform. A train. And me, standing at the edge, watching it come in. That day, I visited the County Historical Society, asked about Parkside Station. The receptionist blinked, said it never existed. I asked about the derailment again. She hesitated, then reached below the desk, pulled out a small wooden box. Inside, 4 photos, faded, all labeled 1942. One showed a group of soldiers beside a train, 102nd Regiment, smiling. Another, charred debris. No survivors listed, no bodies recovered. The final photo, blurry, taken at night. It showed a tunnel, cracked open like a wound. From it, light, amber, sickly, and a face, just barely visible. The girl in the yellow dress. I didn't say a word, but the receptionist whispered without looking up, "If you saw her, it's too late." That night I didn't sleep. I sat on my porch, waited, not for the whistle, for the vibration, and at exactly 2 a.m., it came, stronger, like something massive had turned in its sleep beneath the lawn. Then the sound, not a whistle, not yet, a breath, long, rattled, drawn through metal lungs. Then, laughter, not joyous, not human, layered, men, women, children, all wrong, all at once. Then came the whistle, and this time, I understood it. It wasn't a call. It was a question. I walked back to the tracks. No flashlight, no recorder, just me. The gravel hissed under my feet like it recognized my weight. I touched the rail. It pulsed again. But now, it felt familiar. Like a heartbeat I'd forgotten. A lantern swayed ahead. I followed. No fear, just motion. The tunnel waited. Same boards, same rusted wire. I didn't need to push this time. They opened for me. Inside, warmth. A breath of heat that smelled like paper and skin. The chamber again. Same bulb. Same bench. The trumpet was gone. In its place, a coat. My great-grandfather's coat. And in the pocket, a folded page. I opened it, a train ticket. No destination, just a date. Tonight, I woke up on the tracks, hands folded, over my chest, boots aligned, like I'd been placed. A single whisper in my ear, boarding complete, and in the distance, a whistle, slow, low, familiar, but not just familiar, mine. The train is real. That's the first truth I stopped running from. Not a metaphor, not a dream, not a ghost story. It breathes, it hungers, and it remembers. I know this now because I boarded it, but not like you'd think. I didn't step into it from a platform. There was no conductor, no station master, no sign. I simply stood still and let it take me. It was 2:13 a.m. The moment the whistle fell silent. The rails glowed faintly beneath my feet. White, not red, pale as bone. And the ground beneath the town finally stopped vibrating. Not because it was over, but because it was watching. Something had changed. I had accepted the ticket. So it came. Not with smoke. Not with screeching brakes. It simply appeared, like someone had developed the negative of a forgotten photograph, and now it wanted its passenger. When I stepped forward, the first thing I felt was cold. Not the chill of air or metal. It was internal. Like my blood had stopped circulating. The train wasn't built of steel. Not anymore. Its sides were stitched seams of shadow and pressure. The door wasn't a door. It was an opening in memory. And, inside, darkness shaped by silence. I walked through. The first car was empty. Benches on either side. No windows. Just blank walls. Except they weren't blank. They breathed. Each pulse pressed faint faces into the metal, mouths open, silent. Eyes rolled upward, fading as quickly as they came. I sat, the bench moved beneath me, not like a seat, like a chest. Then, across the aisle, a man appeared. No sound. He was just there. Neatly dressed, polished shoes. Uniform like a conductor's if the conductor worked for something far older than a railroad. He held a clipboard, but the paper was flesh. It twitched in his hands, and he stared at me. Not with malice. Not with curiosity. With finality. He didn't ask for my ticket, he knew I had it. He merely nodded once and walked past me. But as he did, my vision blurred, and suddenly, I was not alone. The car filled, row by row, passenger after passenger. Saw my father, younger, uniformed, wounded. He did not speak. I saw my mother, as I remembered her in her final week, holding a spoon, trying to feed me applesauce. Her mouth moved, but no words came. Then I saw myself, not the man I am, a child, 4 years old, wearing a yellow paper crown, crying over a missing toy. All these versions sat quietly, watching, breathing, waiting. The walls of the train shimmered, then peeled back. Now there were windows, but outside, There was no landscape, no sky, no night, only other trains, stretching in every direction, some glowing, some rusted, some on fire, some frozen mid-derailment, all of them filled with people, staring straight ahead, all of them moving, but none of them going anywhere. The conductor returned, sat beside me, still silent. Then he opened a small drawer beneath the bench, pulled out a single item, a pocket watch. It ticked, but it didn't track time. Its hands didn't move in circles. They pointed to names, written in tiny letters around the edges. One of them glowed. Mine. That's when I felt it. The air changed. Thicker. Heavier. And behind me a door opened, a new car. Brighter. Wider. Different. I stood, moved forward. No resistance this time. Only gravity, as if the train had been tilted. And I was being pulled toward something. The new car was a dining hall, but no one was eating. They were seated at a long table, clothed in hospital gowns, some wearing dog tags, some with gauze over their mouths. At the head of the table, her, the girl in the yellow dress, no longer a child, but not fully grown. She stood as I entered, smiled, and in a voice like music pulled from an old radio, she said, "You were the last." I opened my mouth. No sound. She nodded, then walked toward me. Bare feet. No sound. Each step changed the floor beneath her, from metal to grass to tile to ash. She reached into her pocket, pulled out a folded note, pressed it into my hand. Inside the note, just one sentence. "Tell them." Then she stepped back, climbed onto the table, and lay down. The others reached for her, gently, silently. Their hands touched her forehead, and the train shook, not from motion, but from memory. The windows burst outward, and a sound erupted, not a whistle, a scream made of every name ever forgotten, including mine. I woke in the middle of the field again. Same tracks, same trees. The station was gone. There was no sign of a train, except for one thing, a lantern hung on a branch, still warm. Inside it, a slip of paper. Departure complete. I returned home. Nothing was different, but nothing was the same. The vibrations had stopped, the whistles never returned, and no one remembered the stories. I searched every paper, every database. The 132nd Regiment had no derailment, no survivors, no incident, like it had all been erased or collected. Now I know what the train really is. It's not for the dead. It's not for the living. It's for the left behind. The ones never mourned, never buried, never named, the forgotten, the faded, the misfiled. Every time someone remembers them, the train gets closer. And every time someone forgets, another ticket is printed. I don't sleep much anymore, but I listen. And sometimes when the world is quiet, I still hear it. The whistle, far off, barely there, not calling, just checking to see if I'm still here. They say if you hear a train in your sleep, a train that no longer exists, don't follow the sound. Don't go to the window. Don't check the time. And whatever you do, don't answer the knock, because it won't be a visitor, or a dream, or a ghost. It'll be the collector. Checking your name, checking your seat, checking if you're ready, and if you are. The doors will open, and there won't be a choice. Only departure. Story 3. Rain taps in code on my window in Fargo. The rain started soft, just a whisper across the window pane. like it always did this time of year in Fargo. But something about the way it hit the glass tonight felt wrong. Too steady. Too clean. Like someone was trying to say something through the rhythm. I sat in the second-floor studio of an old apartment building near Broadway, furnished with dust and the scent of old radiator steam. It was the kind of place that felt borrowed, not lived in. I'd moved in 2 weeks ago, needing a reset. Something quieter than Minneapolis, cheaper, simpler, but nothing here was simple. The rain tapped again, 3 soft knocks, a pause, then 2 harder ones. The same pattern, over and over, like Morse code, if Morse code had breath. I turned down the volume on my laptop. Silence filled the room, except for the taps. I leaned closer to the window. The world outside was a blur, street lamps bleeding into puddles, steam curling from manholes like ghosts with secrets. But there was no one out there. Still, the rain kept knocking. Same rhythm, same urgency. I started writing it down, 3 short. Pause, 2 long, 1 soft, then it repeated. I opened a Morse code chart on my phone. My finger hovered. I translated each tap. 3 short, 3 long, 3 short. I blinked. SOS. I stood completely still. The radiator clicked once. Far off, a truck growled past on Main. Then the tapping changed. Now it was slower, deliberate. 1 tap, pause, 4, then none. I wrote it down, over and over. I didn't sleep that night, I just listened. By morning I had 4 pages of rain patterns scribbled across a notebook. All codes. Some repeated, others didn't. But 1 line translated clearly. He died in this room. I dropped the pen. My breath caught. The room suddenly felt smaller, heavier. The radiator hissed again, longer this time. Then silence. I opened the window. Rain struck my face, cold, stinging. The street below looked ordinary, but something was wrong with the glass. Not the outside, the inside. I wiped it with my sleeve. Fingerprints, small, left behind on the inner pane, trailing downward, like someone had been dragged away while trying to hold on. I called the landlord, asked if someone had lived in this unit before me. He paused, then lied. Nope, been vacant for a year, no problems. But his voice cracked. I checked the fuse box, old labels, handwritten, faint pencil lines under dust, and 1 faded name, next to Unit 2B, J. Thompson. The rain returned with force that evening. More taps, faster now, urgent. I sat on the floor with my notes trying to match the patterns. The sequence didn't make sense until I saw the date. One of the lines, when decoded, read, March 9th, 1987. I Googled it. Nothing. Then I narrowed. The search to Fargo, 1 article. Buried. Local man found dead in apartment bathroom. Apparent suicide. No signs of forced entry. The address matched mine. I read every word. He was a professor, John Thompson, mid-30s, taught linguistics. Rumors said he'd gone mad during his final semester, claimed he was hearing messages in wind and static and rain. Said he found a language deeper than words. They found him in the bathtub, eyes open, smile carved into his cheeks. And the walls covered in symbols written in ash and hair. I felt sick. A gust of wind slammed the window shut. The tapping stopped, until it started again. But now, not just the window. The ceiling, the walls, even the floor, all tapping. Same rhythm, same message. You're next? I grabbed my coat, left the building. Rain soaked through within seconds, but I didn't care. I walked aimlessly downtown, trying to outrun the noise in my ears, the codes, the whispers, but the sound followed, not outside, in me, in my chest, like my heartbeat was tapping back. I ducked into a late-night coffee shop, ordered something hot, sat in a corner. That's when I noticed the man 2 tables over, staring. He looked wrong, too still, too dry, like the rain hadn't touched him at all. He raised a newspaper, held it for me to see. Front page, a photo, my apartment building. Headline, another resident reports hearing coded rain in haunted 2B unit. I blinked. The paper wasn't today's. The date said March 10th, 1987. The man stood, walked past me, whispered in my ear, "You've begun to hear it, haven't you?" I turned to respond, but he was gone. Only a single wet footprint remained near the door. When I got back, my door was open. The lights were off, but something glowed faintly from inside. I stepped forward. On the far wall, drawn in dripping condensation, a message. Help him finish the spell. I didn't sleep. The rain kept talking, and I started to understand. The pattern began again at exactly 3:14 a.m. Tap, tap, tap. Tap like clockwork, as if the rain remembered its cue. I lay awake in the dark, every muscle clenched, eyes wide open but afraid to look at the window. I knew the tapping wasn't random. I knew it had purpose, and now I knew when it would return. I stared at the red digits glowing on my nightstand. 3:14, not 3:15, not 3:13, always 3:14. Rain doesn't follow time like this, not unless something or someone is guiding it. The day before had passed in a strange haze. I couldn't focus at work. Every time I heard so much as a drop of water against the window or the tick of the coffee machine, my heart jumped. At lunch, I Googled rain tapping patterns, the codes in rain, and finally, strange deaths in Fargo apartments. The results weren't helpful. Articles on Morse code, old horror forums, a Reddit thread about cursed buildings in North Dakota, but nothing specific, just fragments, like the taps. But at exactly 3:14 a.m., the pattern returned, and this time, it was longer. Tap, 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 tap. The code had changed, and so had the feeling in the room. It felt crowded, not physically, but something else had entered the room. Not wind, not shadow, something without shape or scent. My breath slowed, my throat dried out. The pressure behind my eyes built until I finally turned toward the window. The blinds remained down, but the glass behind them pulsed faintly. The rain still fell outside, but only the window above my bed received the taps. I reached for my phone, hands trembling. I opened the Notes app and began writing the sequence down. Tap, pause, space. So the code looked like this. I stared at it, trying to translate it into letters, ABC, but then I stopped. That wasn't the point anymore. This wasn't about me solving a code. The rain wasn't waiting for me to decode it. The rain was telling me something. It was trying to be understood. The next morning, the air in the apartment felt thick and humid, as if the weather had followed me inside. I opened the windows for airflow, but they didn't help. The taps weren't gone. In fact, they echoed faintly even without rain. I decided to visit the landlord. Her office was on the first floor of the complex. A short woman in her 60s, always smelling like mint and black coffee, her glasses constantly sliding down her nose. She blinked at me as I mentioned the rain patterns. Rain patterns? Yeah, on the window, every night, same time, tapping out a kind of rhythm. She gave a small laugh. Old buildings make noise. Pipes, boilers, vents. No, I said too quickly. This is specific, rhythmic, and only on my window. She stopped smiling. What's your unit number again? 3B. Her lips tightened. She tapped something on her computer, then clicked quickly away as if changing her mind. Just let me know if it keeps happening. That was it. She ushered me out with a forced smile, but she knew something. I could see it in her eyes. Back upstairs, I turned off all electronics. No TV, no music. I wanted silence, and in the silence, something was still tapping. Not outside, not the window, the closet door. I hadn't opened that door in days. Slowly, I walked over and opened it wide. Darkness inside. Nothing unusual. Just a stack of boxes and my unused winter coat. I knocked lightly. On the back wall. Tap, tap, tap. Nothing replied. I turned away. But as I crossed the room, tap, 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 tap behind me. I froze. Turned back. The closet door was closed. I had left it open. By 9 p.m., the apartment had changed again. Every corner seemed sharper. The shadows looked darker than they should have been. The sound of the faucet dripping felt deliberate. When I went to wash my face, I found water smeared across the mirror. Not condensation, actual water. In a pattern, dots and lines, a code again. I wiped it away, breath catching in my throat. At 3:14 a.m., the taps returned, louder, angrier. This time they weren't on the window. They were inside the room. Tap, tap, tap on the nightstand. Then, on the closet door again. And finally, on the wall directly behind my head. I leapt from bed, flipping the lights on. Nothing. No source. No person. No damage. Only water streaks on the drywall, like tear tracks. I began to keep a journal. I documented each code I heard. I drew diagrams. I tried cross-referencing it with Morse code and binary, but it didn't fit either exactly. The spacing was wrong. The rhythm, too. Personal, like someone had made their own code. I scrolled through pages of old newspaper archives, finally accessing local microfilm records at the downtown library. I searched for Unit 3B, and I found something. May 2003. A man named Edward Crane had lived in my exact unit. He had died suddenly, cause unknown. No signs of trauma. Just stopped breathing in his sleep. Police had found strange symbols drawn in water on the apartment walls. Neighbors reported strange tapping sounds the week of his death, and Crane had been a known practitioner of esoteric magic. The word black magic was used. Now I knew. This wasn't just haunting. It was repetition. The tapping wasn't a ghost, it was a ritual, a pattern repeating itself through time, and now it had found me. On the fourth night, I did something foolish. I tapped back. When the first code began, 3:14 on the dot, I mimicked the taps with my fingers on the floor. Tap, tap, pause, tap, 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 then silence, utter, suffocating. Silence. No wind, no rain. Even the clock stopped ticking. I turned to the window. The blinds rose on their own. Behind them, on the glass, was not rain, but a face. The skin was bloated, blue around the lips, eyes wide and rimmed in red. Mouth gaping open in silent scream. The rain didn't fall around it. It avoided the face entirely. And then, as if sucked back into another world, it vanished, I screamed. But the sound came out wrong, like it echoed backward. I stumbled away from the window, heart racing, and tripped over something cold. The journal I had kept was on the floor, but now the pages were soaked, ruined. My phone blinked repeatedly, notifications piling in, each one time-stamped 3:14 a.m. Each message read the same: let him out. I called the landlord again the next morning. She didn't answer. I went down, but the office was locked. The lights off. A taped note read, "Closed for personal emergency." I knocked anyway. No one came. I walked outside for the first time in days, gulping the cloudy morning air. From the curb, I looked up at my apartment and saw a figure standing in my window. It wasn't me. Inside, I checked every corner. Nothing. But my clothes were wet, and I hadn't touched water all morning. I flipped through my ruined journal again. One phrase stood out, written not in my handwriting. "The ritual is not broken. You are the conduit." That night I packed a bag. I would leave. Stay at a motel. Get away from that cursed pattern. But just as I opened the door, the lights in the apartment cut off. Darkness wrapped the walls in silence. Then, a whisper behind me. Not words, just breath, and the taps began again. Tap, 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 except now they weren't outside. Not on the window, not on the closet. They were tapping inside my skull. I didn't sleep. Not even a minute. I sat with my back to the front door, duffel bag clutched in my arms, eyes on the living room window, waiting for the next tap. But it never came. Not that night. Instead, I heard something worse. At 4:47 a.m., I heard movement from inside the walls. A dragging sound. Wet, heavy, slow, like something pulling its weight through soaked insulation. Then a thump above me. Then another. Then silence. At dawn, I left. I didn't shower. I didn't change. I just grabbed my keys and left everything else behind. Outside, the sky was gray, the streets damp but no longer raining. I drove across Fargo in silence, parked in the lot of a diner and stared at the window. For a second, I thought I saw something behind the glass again, just a flicker, but it was gone. I ordered coffee, not because I wanted it, but because it gave me something hot to hold. The waitress noticed my shaking hands. She didn't ask. Around noon, I returned to the apartment complex, not to go inside. I waited by the landlord's office again. This time, the door was cracked open. Knocked once. No reply. I stepped in. Inside, the lights were dim. A smell of mildew lingered. The room looked untouched, but on the desk there was a folder left open. I know I shouldn't have, but I looked. Inside was a single page titled Incident Log, Unit 3B. There were 3 entries. May 2003. Edward Crane, subject engaged in occult practice. Complaints of noise, tapping. Found deceased. Unknown symbols on walls. No forced entry. April 2016. Melissa D. Reported voices, coded messages and condensation. Evicted for mental instability. Filed complaint before departure. The tapping is inside the mirror. June 2022. Tenant left abruptly. Apartment sealed for 4 months. Unknown stains on drywall. Scent of sulfur. And now, my name had been added at the bottom. Scrawled in pen. April 2025. Multiple calls. Mentions of tapping. No further response. Tenant unstable. I stood frozen. my name already archived like I was another echo in the pattern. I left before she could return, but not before snapping a photo of the page. That evening, I booked a room at a motel on the edge of town. Clean, sterile, no dripping faucets, no old paint. For the first time in weeks, I almost relaxed. I ran a bath just to feel warmth again, to remind myself my body still belonged to me. As I lay back into the water, my eyes drifted up toward the ceiling. There was a water stain there, and in the middle of the stain was a faint circle. Then another, then 5. Not just random blotches. It was the pattern. The rain had followed me. I leapt from the tub, heart thudding. The water rippled behind me, not from my movement, but from something tapping beneath the surface. I drained it immediately. The tub made a groaning noise like it was choking. As the last of the water vanished, I heard one last sound. Tap. From the drain. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Instead, I reviewed the photo of the incident log again. I searched every name I could find. Edward Crane, the man who died in my unit, had once been a professor of comparative religion. Fired in the late 90s after rumors of ritual experimentation. I dug deeper. I found a journal article he'd published, digitized in a forgotten academic archive. It was titled, "Resonance Through Repetition, the Language of Water." In it, he theorized that water could carry memory, that vibrations and rhythms like tapping could record intent, emotion, even thought, if repeated enough. He wrote, "Water is the mirror of unseen will. To speak through it is to embed one's soul in repetition." He wasn't crazy. He was trying to leave something behind. I returned to the apartment at 3 a.m. I had to know. I had to finish what was started. I brought gloves, a flashlight, a crowbar. I went to the closet, the one that kept tapping. This time, I didn't knock. I ripped the back wall open. Wood splinters, dust, and a thick scent of rot. Behind the wall was another layer, old cracked plaster, and behind that was brick, ancient and crumbling. There was something painted there. Black, script, curved lines, circles. Inside one circle was a single word, release, and beneath it, a cavity. I reached inside. My fingers touched glass. A jar. Inside it, murky black water, floating in the water, a lock of hair, and a tooth. I dropped it. It shattered. The moment it broke, the apartment exhaled. Every light flickered. The walls groaned. The air grew cold. And then came the flood. Water gushed from the closet. Not from pipes. From the air. Pouring, screaming, bursting into the room with a force that sent me crashing backward. The water formed a shape. A man. No, a body. Bloated, rotting, skin peeling. The eyes were open, and they were mine. The mouth moved, but it didn't speak. It tapped on the soaked floor. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. I understood now. It wasn't just a message. It was a warning. It was a cycle, and I had just taken the next step. The water retreated as quickly as it came, vanishing back into the closet, into the cracks in the wall, into the broken jar. I lay coughing, soaked, gasping on the floor. When I looked up, everything was dry. The next day I tried to explain to someone, anyone, but my words fell flat. No one believed me. No one listened. The landlord was gone. The office emptied overnight. I showed them the photo of the incident log. They claimed it never existed. I went back to the apartment, and it was being repainted, refloored, cleansed by a new owner. She smiled kindly at me. "You lived here before?" "Yes," she nodded. "Beautiful place, feels peaceful. Rain sounds amazing at night." My stomach dropped. She continued, "I'm moving in next week, Unit 3B. As I turned to leave, I heard it again. Tap from inside the walls. The cycle had already begun again, and this time, I'd be the name on the log someone else finds. 3 nights since the water rose and spoke through my reflection. 3 nights since I saw my own eyes, lifeless, inside the shape of the drowned man behind my closet. Since then, I haven't returned, but I hear it again. Tap, 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 tap. This time, not on my window. It's tapping inside me. I moved south, rented a sublet outside Sioux Falls. Concrete walls, no pipes along the ceiling. Top floor, no shared drains. I even tore the smoke alarm off the ceiling just so the silence could feel pure. But it followed. 2 nights ago, I stepped into the bathroom and saw the mirror was fogged, despite the room being cold and dry. When I wiped it, letters formed from the streaks of moisture. LISTEN. Last night, I heard dripping from inside the radiator. This morning, the fire alarm went off while I was boiling water. The steam had formed circles on the ceiling. I visited a friend, the only one who ever truly listened. Priya. She lived in Fargo once. She remembered the building. She's the one who dared me to move in when rent dropped low. She also believed me. I showed her the log, the photo. She froze when she saw Edward, Crane's name. Priya once studied folklore at NDSU. She said she'd heard his name, rumored to have experimented with ritual hydrography, a lost theory that human intent could permanently scar water through repetition and sacrifice, and more dangerously, that these scars could be passed from one location to another, or even from one person to another. "I think," she said, "it latched onto you." I didn't want to believe her until I realized the taps were now happening when I wasn't home. I walked past a fountain in the park. No wind, no movement. Suddenly, tap, 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 tap. A sparrow fell from a tree mid-flight. Dead. No wounds, just wet feathers. I started recording every sound, left a mic running when I left the apartment, watched hours of footage. On one clip at 3:17 a.m., I caught something, not tapping, breathing, inside the wall, guttural, wet, like something was being born, and after the breath, a whisper. "Open." I called Priya again. She answered on the first ring. "I found something," she said. "You won't like it." She'd found a paper by Crane, an unpublished one, locked in microfilm in the university archives. It included diagrams, ritual, a pattern of circles, lines, and taps that he believed could encode intent into water forever. He named it the breath cycle. Said once a person completed all phases, hearing the code, seeing the shape, releasing the sealed memory, and surviving the encounter, the entity within the pattern would imprint on them. It would not kill them. It would become them. I had reached phase 3. Priya hesitated before saying what phase 4 was. "You have to complete the pattern," she whispered. "That means sealing it again, locking it back in place, or else it spreads." "How?" I asked. "There's a symbol you need to carve, in water, and a sentence you need to speak, loudly, not written." "What's the sentence?" She hesitated, then slowly, "I am not the last ripple." I waited until nightfall. I boiled a pot of water, filled a basin, took the edge of a key and dragged it through the water, carving the symbol from Crane's diagram. 5 loops, a spiral at the center. I whispered the words. I am not the last ripple. The room grew cold. The lights turned blue. Behind me, the mirror rippled, not fogged, not cracked. It rippled like liquid. A face emerged, not mine, not Crane's. It was featureless. Skin pulled tight like wet paper, but its mouth opened. From the mirror, it exhaled, and the taps began again. Faster, frantic, screamed and shoved the basin off the table. Water sprayed across the floor. The mirror shattered. The pattern broke and silence returned. The next morning, Priya didn't answer. I went to her apartment. Door open. Inside, her sink was running. The mirror fogged. A message written in steam. OULIED, the tub was full. No, body just hair long, black, floating in circles. I turned and ran. Now the taps don't come from outside or even from the walls. They tap behind my eyes. When I close them, I see the spiral. When I dream in water. And in my dreams, I'm not afraid. I tap, and someone taps back. They're building new units in Fargo now. Luxury apartments. A company bought the entire block, tore the building down, paved over the foundation, but it rains there more often now. Every time it does, tenants report the same thing. A pattern forming in the condensation, circles, and a soft sound in the plumbing. Tap, 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 tap. They think it's the pipes, they don't know. The water remembers, and what's left of me is now part of that memory. Not alive, not dead, just tapping, waiting for you to listen. Story 4. Arizona bunkers flowers, my rotting flesh when I weep. I didn't expect the desert to feel this cold at night. The wind slithered across the sands of Arizona like something searching, not for prey, but for memory. I parked my truck near the rusted remnants of a barbed wire fence, the earth cracking under my boots with each step toward the forgotten bunker mouth. It sat low and half buried in a dune like a sealed throat waiting to breathe. The steel door groaned when I pulled. It didn't want to open. Inside, the temperature dropped immediately. No sunlight, no echo. Just lead walls, concrete bones, and the sensation that the world above had never existed. I clicked on my flashlight. The beam wobbled as I walked slowly forward, dust falling like fine ash from the corners of the corridor. My fingers traced the texture of the walls, ridged, dry, and still radiating a warmth that had no business being there, like the remnants of a long-dead fever. I smelled them before I heard anything. Honeysuckles, bright, floral, wrong. There were no flowers in this tomb, but the scent clung to the air as if something had spilled it deliberately. I froze. My breathing began to echo louder than my steps. Something about the scent curled behind my eyes like a memory I never lived. I moved deeper into the corridor. The walls narrowed as I descended a stairwell. Dust stirred underfoot. My light caught shapes ahead. Rusted filing cabinets. An old cot. A toppled radio still wired into a power box that shouldn't have worked. But the hum was faint, pulsing. 3 notes. Silence. 2 notes. Silence. A pattern. When I turned toward the sleeping area, the smell intensified. Not sweet anymore. Not floral. It twisted into something damp. Something old. Rot. I blinked. Back a sudden sting in my eyes. I wasn't crying, not yet. But moisture was threatening the corners of my vision. That's when the scent snapped fully into rot. like flesh left beneath plastic wrap. Warm, wet, and patient, my knees buckled. I dropped to the ground, one hand bracing against the steel table. The flashlight flickered, then I heard it. The radio. Still dead, still unplugged, but it said my name. Jacob. Soft. Fragile. Like someone remembering the shape of the word Jacob again. But this time it wasn't just sound. There was something behind it, a wheeze, like breath through teeth that had collapsed years ago. I stared at the device. The dials were all turned to 0. The wire dangled in a lazy loop, cut clean through. No power, no signal, just the voice. I stood, barely able to breathe, my chest tight, my eyes burning. I don't know why I whispered back, or yes. The voice stopped. The honeysuckle returned. For one moment it felt like I could stand. The scent was so strong, it pulled me upward like a rope. But then, I remembered the cot and the sheet beneath it. It moved. I stepped closer. The light wavered, my hands shaking. Beneath the cot, a dark shape curled into the corner like it had grown from the floor itself. Long, thin limbs. A back hunched at a terrible angle. It didn't speak. It breathed, in rhythm with the pattern from the radio. 3 slow breaths. Silence. 2 faster ones. Silence. Matching the signal. Matching the message. I took a step back. My boot landed on something brittle, a cassette tape. I bent to pick it up. The label was smeared, but I could read a date. April 12th, 1985. The tape itself was warm to the touch. Too warm. Like something had just ejected it from a machine that no longer existed. I opened my pack and slid the tape into my recorder. The hiss began first. Then, a voice clearer than the one from the radio whispered, "He cried and the flowers died." Then the walls remembered the smell of death and kept it forever. I snapped the recorder shut. My hands were trembling so hard I could hear the plastic casing rattle. Behind me, the honeysuckle rotted again. I turned and saw a trail of moisture crawling down the walls, amber, resinous like sap. But it steamed, a heat behind the lead. I touched it without thinking. Pain shot through my hand, not from heat, but from something colder, like a memory buried beneath ice. A scream echoed suddenly through the corridor, plus, not from me, not from the shape, from the walls. They had absorbed it, and were giving it back, looping it. I stumbled, backward, the recorder slipping from my grip. It played again as it hit the floor. He cried. The words distorted now, and the scent turned to teeth. Teeth? I looked back toward the cot. The shape was gone, but the bedsheet had shifted. Single corner hung from the edge, torn and frayed. The air smelled like blood left in the sun, and beneath it, faint but growing, the scent of honeysuckles again. That's when the voice on the radio returned, not calling my name this time, but singing, low, broken, like a lullaby built from dust. The words didn't make sense, but the melody wormed into my spine. It wanted me to lie down, to remember something. I clutched my head and staggered toward the stairwell. Every step I took, the scent flipped between bloom and rot. Bloom, rot, like a heartbeat turning inside out. I reached the top and slammed the steel door behind me. The night air stabbed my lungs. I dropped to my knees in the dirt, crying finally. And in that moment, the air filled with the scent of something decaying inside my own skin. Behind me, the door whispered open by itself, not creaking, but exhaling, as if the bunker wanted me back. And the flowers, They were waiting to bloom. Again. I returned to the bunker the next night. I don't know why. I told myself I needed answers. That the cassette, the breathing under the cot, the flowers, all of it could be explained. But I think it was something else pulling me back. Something in the air, in the heat the walls exhaled, in the way the ground still held a pulse. The scent was waiting for me before I even reached the door. Honeysuckle, but sharper this time, like the petals had edges. I paused at the steel entrance. There were fresh drag marks in the dust. Something had come out, or gone deeper. I descended anyway. The flashlight flickered as I crossed the threshold. My breath fogged in the air, which made no sense in Arizona. The walls sweated heat, but the air felt refrigerated, as if the cold didn't come from outside, but from the memory of something left here too long. My boots echoed on the stairwell. The cot was still there when I reached the lower chamber, but the bedsheet was missing. So was the radio. The only thing left on the table was the cassette. But now there were two. I picked up the new one. No label. Just dust and a smear that looked too dark to be rust. I slid it into my recorder. It didn't hiss. It sighed. The voice that followed was not mine. Not anyone's I recognized. It was soft and childlike, but brittle, like it had been preserved in ash. She cried into the cement, and the flowers listened. The voice paused. Then a different one, older with a rasp like blood gargled in a dry throat, and they remembered how April smelled. April? I didn't know anyone by that name. Not yet. But I would, because something moved in the corridor behind me. I turned, and the walls were wet. Not soaked, not dripping, but pulsing. Their color deepened from concrete gray to bruised purple, like something inside them was trying to push through. Then the floor beneath my boots cracked faintly, a hollow sound. I knelt and pressed my ear to the cement. I heard whimpering, a woman's voice, not from above, from below, beneath the bunker itself. Let me dry, please. I reeled back. The floor was cold, unnaturally cold, yet the air above remained stifling. The scent changed from honeysuckle to bleach, sharp chemical, like something was trying to clean what could never be scrubbed away. I followed the corridor past the cot, deeper than I had gone before. The lights embedded in the ceiling were long dead, but my flashlight carved out the shapes ahead. A decontamination shower, a locked metal hatch, and behind it, sound, thumping, wet, rhythmic, like someone knocking with the meat of their fist. 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks, pause. The same pattern, the one the radio played. I whispered, "April?" I don't know why, I don't remember meaning to, but the air around me shifted, and a shape appeared on the other side of the fogged shower glass, small, bent, hair hanging in wet clumps over its face. The smell of honeysuckle returned, suffocatingly sweet. I blinked, and the figure vanished. Only the steam remained, but now it crept along the tiles like fog from boiling water, and I could swear it whispered, "You saw her room." I backed into the corridor. The cassette was still playing. She wept for the sky, and the flowers fed on it. The voice was more urgent now, faster, as if someone were remembering against their will. She couldn't leave because the walls knew her skin. I turned off the recorder and walked quickly, too quickly, toward the exit. The scent turned to rot again, but not flesh. No, this time it was mold, sour, like old bread soaked in tears. I covered my nose, but it was inside me already, like memory. Back at the staircase, I noticed something that hadn't been there the night before. Carvings, tiny, desperate scratches all along the handrail, over and over. April, 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 hundreds of times. And once, carved deeper than the rest, the metal flaked open. She never dried. What the hell did that mean? I climbed out. The door closed behind me with a soft click. No groan this time, like it had been recently oiled. Didn't sleep that night. The scent was in my hair, in my mouth. And when I finally passed out around 4 a.m., I dreamt of someone crying in a corner while flowers grew from her knees. I returned again the next day. I had to. My mind wasn't mine anymore. The moment the desert heat hit me, the scent returned. But this time, not honeysuckle. This time it smelled like fire. Inside the bunker, the air rippled. The deeper I went, the louder the hum. The radio was back on the table, but someone had written something across the wall behind it, in what looked like charcoal. Don't cry for her. Cry with her. My knees weakened, because I felt it building in my chest again. The pressure, the emotion, the tears. I wiped my eyes quickly, but a single drop fell. Just one. And the smell changed. Rotting meat, burnt oil, copper. The walls hissed, the cot frame bent. No wind, no motion, but bent inward like gravity was folding wrong. And the voice on the radio screamed, then whispered, "She's under the floor now." I collapsed, and the scent wrapped around me, a coffin made of memory. The desert sky above the bunker glowed red, not sunset, not dawn, just red. As if the world were stuck in a heat-laced memory of fire that never went out. I stood above the steel hatch again. No part of me wanted to open it, but my fingers moved. Anyway, the scent hit before the door even creaked. Not honeysuckle, not rot, but something between. Like sweet syrup spilled on a corpse and left to ferment. I descended into the stale dark. The flashlight trembled in my grip as I stepped. Off the bottom stair, something crunched under my boot. A photograph, black and white, edges curled. It showed the room I was standing in, the cot, the radio, and a woman in the corner, turned away from the camera, shoulders shaking. She was crying. Behind her, faint but visible, a wall stained with a dark pattern of flowers. No, not drawn, grown. I looked to that corner now, empty, but damp. The walls there glistened like the sweat of someone feverish. I walked slowly toward the radio table. A new cassette waited for me. No label, no dust, still warm. As if it had just been placed. I didn't touch it. Not yet, because something else drew my attention. Carved into the underside of the table, with exacting, painful precision. She drowned without water. The lights in the ceiling flickered on, just for a moment. Just long enough for me to see the condensation forming along the walls. Steam rose. The floor began to weep. Thin trails of liquid trickled from the seams between the tiles, smelling unmistakably of honeysuckle and something deeper underneath. I pressed play on the cassette. This time, no voice, just a wet breathing. Inhale, exhale, gurgling. Then a single word whispered, "Look." The flashlight beam dragged across the floor, and the pool of water gathering by the cot began to shimmer. Shapes formed within it. Letters. Names. Overlapping, vanishing. But one remained steady. April Clemens. My heart stuttered. That name again. Whispered it, and the flashlight died. Total black. A rustling sound began in the hallway outside the chamber, like cloth being dragged, slowly, across tile. I didn't breathe. The smell in the room bloomed sweet, then curdled, thick as meat left in the sun. Something brushed the back of my neck. I turned sharply, but nothing. Yet the rustling stopped, replaced by a soft laughter, childlike. From under the floor, I fled into the hallway, but it had changed, stretched. Each step I took, the corridor behind me grew longer, as if it didn't want me to find the end, or maybe it didn't want me to turn back. At the far side, what should have been a wall was now a door, wooden, painted pale blue, with a nameplate, April's room. I touched the knob. It burned cold. I opened the door slowly, and the smell, fresh, rain on flowers, then burning hair, then copper. Inside was a bedroom, not bunker grade, not military, but warm, suburban. Bed with lace sheets, posters on the wall, a small TV in the corner playing static, and in the middle of the bed, a girl curled into herself, unmoving, hair soaked, skin pale, wet. The air around her shimmered like heat over asphalt. But this wasn't heat. This was sorrow. I stepped inside. The girl didn't move, but her mouth twitched, and then she said, without opening her eyes, "You heard me cry." I backed toward the doorway, but the handle was gone. Only a blank wall now. No seam, no frame, no escape. She opened her eyes. They were all pupil, no white. She smiled, but the skin on her face cracked when she did, and a scent, impossibly pungent, of scorched flowers and ammonia filled the room. She whispered, "Now I hear you." And I wept. Not because I chose to, but because something in the room forced it. Tears spilled, hit the floor, and the entire room began to shift. The bed folded, the TV melted, and the posters peeled from the walls, revealing layer after layer of names. Names carved into the drywall. April. My ears rang. The girl stood, but now she was taller, older, and her skin wet, always wet. She walked toward me, barefoot, her steps leaving steaming prints behind. She reached toward my face and whispered, "Breathe in the heat of what was buried." I tried to speak, but my throat was full of honeysuckle. I choked, and she smiled. Not cruelly, almost relieved, like she wanted to be remembered by someone who finally understood. The room went dark. A sharp sound, like a tape being yanked from a cassette, then silence. I woke up in my car, seatbelt on, keys in the ignition. The hatch behind me sealed shut. No sign I'd ever gone in, but the scent, still in my lungs, still under my skin, and a small cassette lay on the passenger seat. Labeled, "Do Not Weep and Bloom." I didn't play it. Not yet. Because the ground around the bunker had changed, cracked, as if something below had shifted, moved closer to the surface. And that night, in my motel room, the radio turned itself on, and the broadcast said, "April. Clemens, deceased, 1983. Last known location, Bunker 12A. Then, my name. Subject 2. Status. Experiencing scent phase transition." I turned off the radio, cried once, and the carpet beneath me bloomed. Not metaphorically, but literally. Tiny white flowers. That turned black when they touched my tears. The tunnel sloped downward with a gradual curve, like a throat swallowing us whole. Claire held the flashlight low now, its beam tracing the broken tracks embedded in the dirt floor. The smell of honeysuckle was gone. In its place hung something damp, thick, like someone had wept into the concrete for years. I brushed the wall. My fingers came back black and wet. "There's no mold here," I whispered. "This isn't rot. It's fresh." Claire didn't reply. She was listening again, listening with her whole body, chin tilted, eyes glassy. I wanted to shake her, but I was afraid if I touched her again, she'd crack. I heard it next, not the train. It was laughter, far down the passage. A man's voice, but warped, gurgling, like lungs half filled with water. It didn't echo. It seeped. We reached a sealed steel door with radiation warnings scraped nearly clean. The keypad beside it was split open, wires frayed like burned nerves. Claire didn't stop. She placed her hand on the center of the door and whispered, "Let me in." I almost laughed. Then it opened. The air that rushed out was warm, not bunker warm, body warm, a breath. It fogged my glasses and stung my eyes. Behind the door, the corridor widened into an octagonal chamber glowing faintly blue. The walls hummed softly. Claire stepped inside, and I followed. I shouldn't have. The floor in this chamber was damp carpet. Not wet. Just tacky, like it had absorbed something living. The walls weren't concrete anymore. They looked like industrial padding pulsing faintly. "I smell them," Claire said. Her voice was calm. Not her voice anymore. "I smell the honeysuckles. They're crying." Something moved in the far wall, a ripple, a shape pressed outward, from the padding forming a half face, then melting away. I staggered back, heart kicking, but Claire walked closer. "Don't touch it," I gasped, but she already had. Her hand sank into the padding like warm flesh. Her eyes rolled back. Then she turned to me. "They know you're here now." I didn't ask who. She reached into her pocket and pulled out something I hadn't seen her bring, an old-fashioned tape recorder. "It's not just scent," she whispered. "It's memory. They're playing it back through me." Then she pressed play. A scream surged from the speaker. My scream. My voice from childhood. My mother's voice followed, pleading, crying, a train horn. Screeching metal. Bone cracking, I collapsed to my knees. "That's the day you went missing, isn't it?" Claire said quietly. "I never went missing," I croaked. Claire tilted her head. "Didn't you?" The wall across the room split. Not like a door, but like wet paper pulled apart. Beyond it, something glowed, pale green. A reactor. Core? A hallucination? It pulsed. Thump. Thump. And with each pulse the scent returned and shifted. Honeysuckle, then mildew, pine, then sulfur, blood, then roses. I couldn't move. "Step forward," Claire said. No, Claire, you don't understand." But her face wasn't hers anymore. Her mouth opened too wide. Her eyes reflected me in reverse. "Step forward," she repeated. I did. Inside the core room there was no machinery, only a chair. Strapped to it was me. Myself, but older, face sunken, lips dry, tubes feeding into my arms, my mouth. The honeysuckle smell choked me. My body trembled. "I've been here before, haven't I?" Claire nodded. "You never left." "Not really." The walls began to throb. The lights, dimmed and the padding around the reactor rippled like a tide. "You're the recording," Claire said. "What walked out years ago, Claire, was the echo." Something roared deep in the walls. I ran. The tunnel tried to resist. It shifted, lengthened. Doors bloomed where walls had been. Claire screamed behind me. Plus, but it wasn't pain. It was laughter. My flashlight died. I ran in the dark. I hit a ladder. Cold. Rusted. It scraped the skin off my palms as I climbed. Each rung hissed, like it resented my escape. Then, light. Morning light. I burst out of the hatch into an empty desert, gasping. No birds, no wind, just silence. And the faint smell of honeysuckle. The bunker's entrance sealed behind me. Metal grinding shut. But that's not where it ends, because the scent followed me home. And at night, when I sleep, I hear the reactor again, thump, thump. I see Claire, standing at the foot of my bed, smiling with someone else's face, and whispering with a voice that is mine. Step forward. Story 5, Louisiana Swamp Mirror. My reflection ages 50 years in thunder. The air was thick with gnats and something older. A wet heaviness clung to every breath as I trudged deeper into the Louisiana swamp, boots half swallowed by dark, sucking water. Cypress trees twisted upward like knotted fingers, and the sky above was the color of old lead. Branches clawed my jacket. The only sound was the low drone of insects and the distant bellow of a bullfrog that never moved closer or farther, like it was frozen in place. I'd been tracking coordinates scribbled on a rotting postcard I'd found inside a used book from the Baton Rouge flea market. The note said only, "Cabin, mirror, don't look long." My fingers trembled when I finally saw the silhouette. The shack leaned like it was about to fall into itself, half hidden behind hanging moss. Its wooden walls were mottled black with mold, and 2 broken shutters flapped with each gust of wind that passed through the trees. I approached slowly, every step crunching over broken shells and old, bleached bones. The porch creaked under my weight, but it held. The door wasn't locked. It never is in these kinds of places. Inside, the staleness hit me, dry rot and rainwater and something sharp underneath, like scorched paper. The first thing I saw wasn't furniture or dust or spiderwebs. It was the mirror. It stood above an ancient fireplace lined with soot, the mirror's frame carved from something dark, pecan wood maybe, but warped. Parts of it looked melted. The glass itself was streaked with age, spotted in places, its surface cracked not from shattering but from within, as though something had pushed against it from the other side. I stared. Nothing moved. My own reflection stared back. Almost. The lightning hit then. A flash. Pure white. A crack of thunder that rolled in behind it like a crashing wall. And in that instant, my face shifted. Wrinkles. Deep, unnatural grooves slashed across my forehead and cheeks. My hair, still dark a second ago, thinned before my eyes, turning gray, then white, then falling in tufts onto my shoulders in the reflection. But when I raised my hands to touch my face, the skin on them was still, smooth, still mine. Only in the glass. Was I ancient? I stumbled back, heart slamming in my chest like a door being beaten from the other side. The cabin didn't move. Nothing else changed. But that reflection still stared at me, still twisted older. And then the smell changed. Gone was the humid mildew. In its place came something rank, rotting swamp mud mixed with meat left too long in the sun. Then everything went quiet. Even the frogs stopped. No buzzing. No rustle of birds. Only silence. and the soft pop of one of my hairs falling to the ground in the reflection. I screamed. My voice shattered the hush, and the forest didn't answer. Only the mirror seemed to quiver, ever so slightly, as though the scream had rippled inside it. I turned away, gripping the wall to steady myself. I needed air. I needed to get out. But something held me in place. Underneath my boots, the floor groaned. Then I noticed it. One board was newer, less decayed. I crouched, pried at it with my knife, and it came up with a reluctant screech. Beneath it, wrapped in cracked oilskin, was a bundle. Inside, a journal. The first page was water-stained, but one phrase had been written again and again. Don't look too long. The entries were fragmented, scrawled with a kind of fevered urgency. One stuck with me immediately. March 9th, 1973. The mirror took Albert's youth. He stared into it through a full storm. I watched his hair bleach in a second. His eyes turned yellow. We couldn't stop it. He's gone now. I turned the page. April 3rd. Every time I look into it, I see more of myself slip. I covered it once. The cloth burned itself to ash. We're not supposed to see our end. My breath caught a sudden crackle from the corner, an old radio tucked under a pile of rags. I hadn't touched it, hadn't even seen it when I came in. Now it hissed, then whined, then whispered, "What you see is what you'll become." The voice was mine, but older, much, much older. I stared at the device. The dials didn't work. There was no power. Another bolt of lightning hit, this time directly overhead. The walls shuddered, and in the mirror's reflection, I wasn't alone. A girl stood behind me, smiling, a little swamp child with tangled hair and no teeth. But when I turned, no one, only the wall. But in the glass, she was still there, and getting closer. I dropped the journal, heat pressed against my back. When I turned again, the fireplace flared to life, without fuel, without a spark. Flames rose, licking the bottom of the mirror's frame, and the wood hissed like wet skin meeting a stovetop. Then I saw it. My name, carved into the mirror's lower-edged C. Mason Bell, 1973. That was impossible. I was born in 1989. The floor pulsed under me. Something below moved. Rhythmic, like heartbeats in the mud. I backed away from the mirror, but the reflection didn't follow. Instead, it leaned in. My old self pressed a hand against the inside of the glass and smiled. The stench intensified like 1,000 drowned things dragged up from below. I ran, burst through the door, into the humid night where rain began to fall again, hard and fast, each drop tapping like Morse code on my jacket. The swamp lit up with another flash. This one stayed in my eyes, like it had burned through. I stumbled toward the dock I'd tied my boat to, heart pounding. But the dock was gone, flooded, the boat half sunk, tilting to one side like it had been waiting. I climbed in anyway. The water around me glowed dimly, as though something far beneath was moving with its own light. Turned once, one last time, to look back, and I saw the cabin, still standing, still waiting, but no reflection in the window. Only the girl, smiling, still no teeth. My hands on the oars were shaking, but I rowed, and in every tree I passed, there were faces, old, gray, mine looking, down, watching. A frog croaked again. The sound made me jump. It sounded wrong now, like a laugh. Underwater, the swamp didn't sleep. Even when the sky stopped weeping and the thunder rolled farther west, the water still moved. The bugs still sang. Something unseen still watched. I woke in the boat, my back bent against the splintered bench, my hands frozen on the oars, my breath fogged the humid air, sticky and thick, like the boat had drifted through warm lungs. The mirror cabin was still visible behind me. I hadn't rowed far. Why? I remembered gripping the oars, pushing away. But it was like something held the boat in place. Or maybe something inside me wanted to stay close. That's when I first heard it. A voice in the reeds, not the girl's whisper. This one was deep, male, tired. It spoke my name. Once, then again, a little closer, and again, until I couldn't tell if it was out there or in my chest. I reached for the oilskin journal and flipped through the pages, smudged from water and time. One entry was scrawled differently, less clean, like it had been written with shaking fingers. June 11th, 1973. The mirror remembers. It knows your name before you arrive. It knew mine. Once it says your name out loud, it has you. Tap up, the sound came from beneath the boat. Tap tap, knuckles. On the wood. My whole spine stiffened. I froze. Then leaned slowly over the side. The water was calm. Too calm. I waited. Tap, tap, tap. I whispered. Who's there? The water didn't answer, but a ripple moved beneath the surface, long and straight, like something drifting just under the skin. Something moving toward me. A hand broke the surface, pale, swollen, blue-veined. It grabbed the edge of the boat, long fingers with cracked nails. I screamed, plus plus, but when lightning struck, it was gone. No splash, no body, just silence, and the steady sound of my name in the wind. I forced myself to move, grabbed the oars, started rowing, but the boat resisted, like the swamp had grown teeth, like it wanted me back, like it had plans. That's when I saw it. In a flash, just at the edge of the trees, stood another post. Something was nailed to it, a mirror, not broken, not warped, just watching, and in it, my reflection older, 50 years older. My eyes were pale, my face sagged, my lips were dry and bruised. Behind me in the reflection, my mother, dead for 5 years, but unmistakably her, smiling in that way she did when she disapproved of my choices. She lifted her hand in the reflection, but behind me, there was no one. Dropped the oars. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop. Lightning struck again. The mirror on the post shimmered, like it had water under its surface. My reflection's lips moved. I couldn't hear what it said, but I read the shape. Come, back. And the radio behind me crackled to life. Static. Then the same deep voice, not whispering anymore, counting. 5, 4, 3, 2. I turned it off. I knew I had to go back. The cabin wasn't done with me. I wasn't done with the mirror. And somewhere in those woods, the girl was still waiting, maybe still watching. I turned the boat back. The cabin looked darker now, like its windows had grown eyelids. The honeysuckle smell was strong again, so sweet it made my eyes sting. But the moment the first tear fell, the scent shifted from honeysuckle to something rotten, meat, decay, wet leaves and mold and skin. It hit so hard I gagged. I opened the cabin door. Inside, The mirror pulsed like something behind it was breathing. I walked straight to the fireplace. I pressed my hand against the warped floorboards and lifted the one that had moved before. This time, beneath it was no hollow crawl space. There was a concrete hatch, a ring handle in the center, rusty, worn, but warm, like someone had just touched it. I pulled. The hatch groaned open, letting out a breath of cold air. Stairs, leading down, into black, and at the bottom, something breathing. Slow, deep, like lungs the size of a barn. I stepped inside. Each stair creaked. Each one sounded like it screamed when my foot touched it. The whole walls were wet, covered in old paper. I stopped on the landing and looked closer. Newspaper clippings, all of them dated during thunderstorms. Man disappears during Bayou storm. Girl lost near Lake Pontchartrain, mirror found shattered. Power outage during lightning storm kills 4. My heart raced. I saw the last clipping and froze. My own face. From today, with the words, presumed. Dead in storm. I reached the bottom. The room was round. 12 mirrors formed the walls, one for every direction. Each one reflected me, but differently. One was my child face. One middle-aged, one with my mouth sewn shut, one with eyes missing, one soaked in blood, and one showed me standing. But someone else behind me, the girl, smiling, still no teeth. I turned fast. Nothing, but my reflection kept smiling, even though my real face did not. The mirrors pulsed. Their surfaces rippled like water. Stepped toward one. My fingers reached out. It felt alive, like flesh stretched tight. It was wet and warm. And then it opened its eyes. The reflection blinked, only the one in the mirror. My own eyes stayed still. I staggered back. The breathing in the room deepened. Faster now, the mirrors began whispering all together. Dozens of voices, overlapping. My name. The name of the girl. And another. A third voice. Raspy. Older than anything. Saying a word I couldn't understand. A word that made my ears ring. A door formed in the center of the mirrored floor. Its frame etched with claw marks. It swung open slowly. Air poured out. Ice cold. And somewhere deep inside it, I heard thunder and screaming. Not mine. Not yet. But maybe soon. I stepped forward. I had to. Because the mirror behind me was changing again. Now it didn't just show me, it showed my future, and I wasn't alone in it anymore. I heard footsteps behind the glass, and the girl's voice, finally clear. Don't look too long. There are no clocks underground. No way to know how long you've been breathing the same recycled air. The cold in the tunnel felt wrong, not natural. Not like the chill of swamp water or the damp cool of stone. It was a still cold, the kind that forgets the sun ever existed. Behind me, the 12 mirrors in the round room still pulsed faintly. Was supposed to keep going, into the door that had opened in the mirrored floor. But I couldn't stop staring back at my reflection. Each mirror now showed movement, not mine. The versions of me inside the glass had started walking, pacing, blinking, fading in and out of time like old film. The one closest to me mouthed something silently, so I leaned close. The mirror's breath fogged the surface, and I finally read the words. If you leave, you stay. I didn't understand. but the cold hallway ahead was calling. I descended slowly, the steps slick beneath my boots. The further I went, the more distorted the air became, warping light like I was walking underwater. The tunnel curved, the walls changing from concrete to metal, then something older, bone-colored, cracked. The carvings on the wall no longer resembled letters, but teeth, hundreds, all grinning. And that smell, the rotting honeysuckle returned, sickly sweet, tinged with mildew and grief. I turned a corner and stopped. A room opened before me, smaller, darker. At its center stood a single new mirror. It hadn't been part of the others. It was oval, framed in melted iron, and still dripping with heat, as if just forged. It hummed like it was alive. I stepped closer. It didn't show my reflection, not right away. Instead, it showed memories, flickers of my life. Me as a boy in the marshes, barefoot and laughing. Me watching lightning split the bayou sky. Me staring into my grandfather's casket. But then it began to change. The images twisted. Me in places I'd never been, speaking words I never remembered saying, touching things I never owned. And in every version, my reflection grew older and older until I watched myself die, eyes wide open, lying in a bed I didn't recognize. A radio played static in the background. Then, the screen of the mirror shattered from the inside. A crack raced across the surface, and a whisper poured out. "We remember your death." I staggered back. The room trembled. From the walls came pounding, voices, screams, then a song, faint, like from another time, an old gospel hymn, played backwards. I turned to run, but the door I came through was gone, vanished into wall. Now, only one path remained, a small hatch in the corner, old wooden nailed shut from the inside. Pried it open. Behind it, nothing but pitch. But I heard breathing again, steady, human. I crawled in. The tunnel narrowed. Dirt scratched my shoulders. Cobwebs clung to my lips, but I kept crawling. And then, light. Not electric. Fire. The tunnel emptied into a long chamber lit by candles. Hundreds of them. Their flames didn't flicker. The air didn't move. And in the center, a chair, facing a mirror made of swamp water. Yes, the frame was cypress bark, but the glass was liquid, a vertical pool suspended. And in it, I saw someone, else not me, not exactly. He looked like me, but older and terrified. He looked at me like he recognized me. He whispered, "Please, stop watching me." Then the water rippled, and he began to age in real time. Deep wrinkles carved across his skin like canyons, hair shriveled to white threads, teeth yellowed, eyes sank. He screamed, but the water absorbed it. Then he crumbled, turned to dust, disappeared into the mirror pool, stood frozen, and the chair turned by itself, facing me, the seat still warm, waiting. I didn't sit, but I moved closer. The water mirror began to speak, not in words, but in images. Faster this time, dozens per second. Faces, children, old men, the girl with no teeth, the crocodile, the radio, the word storm in fire, my name etched in bark. Then I saw a date. June 10th, 1985, today's date. But the year was wrong, or...
Was it? Because when I looked at my reflection again, my hands were wrinkled, skin blotched, nails yellowed, and my eyes, cloudy, older. So much older. I checked my real hands, still young, but in the mirror. Time knew. It had already passed. It just
hadn't caught up to my body yet. The storm outside returned, louder, so loud it shook the swamp, and in that shaking, I heard a sound from above. The girl, singing again. This time the words were clear. He's almost gone, but the mirror remains. Then comes silence. The candles blew out, without wind. I turned back to the tunnel, and behind me, the mirror pool began to drain, sucked inward, until only a hole remained, a dark well, bottomless. I leaned too close, and saw my own eyes staring back, from the bottom, blinking, alive. Then, a hand shot out, grabbed my wrist. It was me, the version of me from the future, wrinkled, decaying. He whispered, "It's not just your time it steals, it's your choices." I broke free, ran through the tunnel, upward, back through the bone-carved walls, back through the round room. The mirrors now shattered, everyone, except one, the largest, the one in the cabin above. It was calling. I climbed fast as I burst into the main room. Lightning struck outside. The storm was over me, right above, and in that flash, I saw my reflection again. Still aged, still smiling, but now behind my younger self. Watching, waiting. The radio clicked on. A broadcast. No static this time, just a calm voice. Female. Reading names. Old ones. Then mine. Declared lost at 10:33 p.m., June 10th, 1985. Swamp storm casualty. Then, one last sound. The mirror laughed softly, and inside it, the girl appeared again. Younger. Now, with new teeth still bloody, smiling like she'd won. They say the storm passed, but I never felt it. The thunder still echoes somewhere deep behind my ears, like a heart that's forgotten how to rest. When I woke, I was no longer in the cabin. I lay inside a boat, half sunken, covered in vines. Rain dripped in steady taps against the canvas overhead, like code, tapping out some indecipherable message. And my fingers, they were wrinkled, not just pruned, but ancient, skin like rice paper, veins like cracked paint. I sat up fast. Pain shot through my spine like a wire tightening around bone. The boat rocked slightly, enough to remind me that it wasn't on water anymore. It was in mud. A thick, dark sludge that sucked at the hull like it wanted to finish the job and pull me under. I looked ahead through moss and stormlight, toward the cabin. It still stood, barely, tilted, and from one shattered window, the mirror glowed, still calling. The boat wouldn't move, so I stepped into the muck. It swallowed my ankles whole. With every step, it hissed like breath on glass, and in the trees, the shadows moved with me like something watched from behind every moss curtain. But I kept going. The cabin door stood open now, but wider than it should have been, like something much larger had left. Inside, the wooden floor was damp, warped, and beneath the fireplace, the mirror waited, still intact, still pulsing. But now it showed nothing. No reflection, no trick, just a deep void, like a screen waiting for a projection. I approached slowly. Then, without warning, the mirror spoke, not with words, but through my bones. A vibration in the marrow. One final choice. Sit or disappear. A low growl echoed through the floorboards. At first I thought it was thunder, but no. It came from underneath, from the tunnel. I turned. The trapdoor had reappeared, wide open, but instead of stairs, water. Still, black, and rising. Fast. I had seconds. Could run or sit in the chair that now waited again before the mirror. But the boat was gone, and so was the path. The forest had grown in, dense and wet and crawling. So I sat. At first, silence. Then, a heartbeat. Not mine. Slower. Heavier. From the mirror. And then it began. Images. Faces. All those who had sat before. The children. The old men. The girl. Me. Over and over and over again. I tried to stand. Couldn't. The chair held me. Its arms extended, warped, gripping mine like roots, and the mirror began to pull. Not my body, my age. Watched my own reflection grow younger, fresher, healthier, as I felt my lungs ache, my back arch, my teeth loosen. I screamed, plus, but only the chair heard, and it whispered back, "You borrowed time. Now pay it back." Then came the sound beneath the floor, rising, pounding, footsteps, not human, wet, dragging, and above the fireplace. A photo slid from behind the mirror, an old black and white, of a man in this cabin, wearing my shirt, written on the back, "If you see your face in the storm, it's already too late." The rain started again, but backwards, falling upward, and the mirror began to boil, its surface bubbling with faces. Thousands, mouths open in silent agony, and in the center, the girl returned. Not young, not old, but burning. Her eyes black, her hair aflame. She leaned through the glass and whispered something. Something I felt, not heard. "You were always going to come here. We just waited long enough." Suddenly the cabin broke, the roof torn by wind, walls collapsing in slow motion, and through the jagged frame, I saw myself, standing at the tree line, not aged, not young, just me, as I am, watching, not helping. The storm ended in a flash, and the screen went black. Awoke on the porch, alone. Rain gone, mirror gone, just the forest and silence. But something had followed me out, because every puddle now showed my reflection, old, dead-eyed, waiting. And as I walked past the trees, their bark twisted into shapes of me, laughing, crying, aged beyond decay. The swamp remembered, even if I tried to forget. From the radio, somewhere deep in the forest, a voice crackled. Not a broadcast, a recording, repeating. Missing, presumed dead. Last seen June 10th, 1985. Aged 32. If found, do not look in mirrors. And in that final flicker of thunder, the shadows behind me aged, fast, and followed. And to this day, no one knows who or what was behind that final knock. Maybe it was just the wind, or maybe something else found its way inside. If stories like this make you glance twice at the hallway mirror, or hesitate before opening the closet just a crack, you're not alone. Tap that like button before the darkness returns, and subscribe, so we can keep sending stories to your dreams. Real horrors that wait until you're halfway asleep. and then whisper your name. This is American Pulse and Paranormal. Sleep well, if it lets you.